What's up, guys? Dave Cordoba here. Cordoba Trained Wrestling. We're in for a good one today. We got my buddy Kenny Santucci coming in today. Really good friend of mine. CrossFit personal trainer. So we got a good one today. So make sure you guys tune in. So today's Wednesday. We got Kenny Santucci on today. Tomorrow we have legendary club wrestling coach Steve Rivera. That'll be on tomorrow. Excited about that one. Really am excited because Steve Rivera is a coach that I look up to. The kind of guy that I emulate my wrestling club. I'm really excited to get to hear from him. And then Friday we got Empire Wrestling coach Khalid Hassan. He'll be on. So make sure you guys tune in. All right. We got Kenny coming on soon. The reason why, one of the main reasons we brought Kenny on, because Kenny is a strength and conditioning coach as well. So we kind of just want to pick his brain about how wrestling-based workouts that we could do at home during quarantine, workouts that we could do when we're back in the gym. So make sure you guys tune in. And, you know, it's going to be more of a Q&A today. So the more that you guys want to know from him, the more we'll get out of him today. So keep joining. What's up, Marissa? What's going on, guys? If you got any questions for me, let me know, man. If you guys want to talk about wrestling, you want to talk about non-wrestling, anything you guys want to talk about, we'll talk, you know. So hopefully you guys got some good questions today. Did you guys get a good workout in today? Did you guys work out today? Everybody on here, did you get a workout in today? I know we got to work it out. Me and Misty got a good workout in today. We do our own little workout beforehand in our gym, and then we go right into our virtual classes. We've been doing a lot of virtual classes. So we're excited about that. Kenny being here really short. Good job, Mercy. You did good today, man. You look really good today. I was excited the way you worked out today. So Kenny just joined in now. We'll get ready to get him in here right now. All right. Going live. Yo.
What's up, my dude? How you been?
What's up, my friend? How's it going?
Not bad. Same old shit.
Well, I know we spoke a little bit earlier today, but it's good to see your face right now.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, my man.
Long time, man. I don't even know when the last time I saw you, man.
Well, you've come up a lot in conversation. It was funny that you hit me up the other day about doing this because I was over at my brother's house, and my nephew's super into wrestling now. He's 6.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, I want to start doing it more. And I was like, oh my God, I got just the guy. And then when you hit me up, I was like, oh, this will be perfect.
Where's he from? Where's he from?
So they live up in East Hanover. He's part of the East Hanover program.
Oh, he's right there, man. I mean, I got a lot of kids coming in now. A lot of little youth guys coming in now.
Yeah, I definitely want to get him in there. I mean, I think it'll do wonders for him because he loves it. You know, we've had my brother's had him play a couple sports already, but he loves wrestling. So
awesome. Man. How old is he?
6.
That's a good age.
Yeah.
My end is your end with a little bit of the voice is a little off, but can you hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, you're solid.
So you so just for some of the people that just signed on, you're the only non-wrestling coach that's coming on this week. It was Coaches Week, but I wanted to bring you on because of number one, you know, just getting you on because you were a former wrestler.
Yep.
And number two, that now your life is based around you being a personal trainer, entrepreneur. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of caps we could put on you. But most importantly, that you were a wrestling guy. You were born and raised in Newark, right? Is that where you were born and raised in Newark? And at that time, when recruiting really wasn't too crazy with Catholic schools, what made you choose St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City?
Well, it was my older brother went to St. Peter's, and he was a swimmer the first 2 years, and it was either going to St. Peter's or Paramus Catholic or Bergen Catholic or one of these schools but it was also far. So the nearest school that like he really liked, and he, you know, my brother talked I loved St. Peter's. I thought it was the best school. I like my high school more than I liked my college. But it was just had this tradition of you know, pumping out some great athletes as well as like great students. I mean, the academics and the sports world at St. Peter's was like second to none. They had just come. I was going there and I wanted to play football, and they had just come winning the championship, the state championship, and they were ranked like fourth in the country or something. So it was pretty cool. And then the Ilaria brothers were from Belleville, and I knew them growing up, and they were like, "You got to get into wrestling." And I wanted to get into wrestling, not knowing what collegiate wrestling was. I was obsessed with WWE. I mean, my parents had a Hulk Hogan impersonator at my third birthday party, and I loved that stuff. So I was like, oh, I want to get into wrestling. And, you know, I remember walking in the room day one and just falling in love with it. And then that carried me into going to college and wanting to wrestle. But I think wrestling, what people don't realize, it builds such a discipline and a foundation for everything and anything. You know, it's the other sports teach you a lot. You know, I learned a lot playing baseball and football and, you know, everything. But wrestling was such a, yes, you do it for the team, but when you're out there, you got nobody to blame but yourself, you know, and it teaches you a lot about, you know, everything I've done in wrestling kind of carried over into my business life, into my personal training life, everything. So I thank wrestling for a lot of that.
And I was going to get into that with you pretty much, you know, early in the beginning. So I didn't really know this. You only started wrestling as a freshman?
Freshman year of high school.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you were late to the party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, growing up in Newark, it was like, yeah, we had an okay, like, you know, baseball was really big in Newark, but nobody even knew about wrestling. You know, it wasn't like a big thing. In my grammar school, like nobody wrestled. Everybody played baseball or basketball. And I wish, and that's why, like, just telling you about my nephew, like, I'm so jealous of the fact, and that's why I'm trying to push him to start doing more than I did, because going into high school, I didn't know anything. So I was learning a shot when guys I knew who were on the team already, like John Caprio and stuff, those guys were, you know, well into knowing how to wrestle. They've had matches under their belt. My first match didn't come till December of my freshman year. So.
And you were saying, we were talking earlier, you were talking about you were a little heavy when you were younger. I mean,
yeah.
Were you heavy as a freshman too?
Yeah. So I went into high school weighing 230 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was a lineman playing football, and then I wrestled. I ended up getting down to like 215 for my first match. So I wrestled my first match at 215, and I fluctuated between 220 and 215 for my freshman year, and then by my senior year, I graduated at 160.
What do you weigh right now? Like, how much you weigh right now?
I'll fluctuate between like 192 and 200 most of the time.
You're pretty tall. You're about, what are you, like 6 foot?
I'm 6'3", 6'2".
6'3", yeah. So, I mean, you're lighter now than you were in college. I mean, high school, obviously.
Yeah.
You're obviously much better shape and stuff. So, I mean, for only starting as a freshman, you were a 2-time district champ, right?
Yeah. So when I got to, I remember, like, districts was the thing, especially like where we had districts at North Oregon. Yeah, being under the light and stuff. I mean, that was like everything. Yeah. I remember when I first won, it was just like the feeling of such accomplishment, you know, and for me, not having done it as much as all the other guys who had done it before, to have won was just like amazing. And that's when, you know, some of the, the guys from Montclair State were there and stuff, and they were like, hey, why don't you join the team next year, blah, blah, blah. So for me, it was exciting. It was an exciting time. And then I went to regions, and I had to wrestle, what's his name? I mean, there were just some monsters. Like, you get to region, that's when you separate the men from the boys. And what's different now, like, my brothers talk about it all the time, is that it's, there's no more super region. Super regions was still a thing when we were there. So that was just a whole other hurdle. So it's like, even if you get past region, you got super regions. And then, I was so jealous everybody got to wrestle at states and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, through the years, it's been definitely one of the things that has taught me so much more, because I was an endurance athlete as well. Like, I've done Ironmans, triathlons, marathons, everything and anything in that world. And the mental strength that you need to push on, because a lot of times people don't realize, you come down to that last 3 to 5 seconds of a match and you got to go, you got to score a point. That's all mental. You could break down, you could be tired. Both guys are falling apart at that time. You're 6 minutes into a match or 5:50 into a match, and you just need to take somebody down. That's all heart. That's all will. That's all just go, And I think that's what a lot of endurance racing is, so there's so much carryover into other sports. You get to the last 2-3 miles of a race and you're hurting. Everything hurts. I don't care if you're the best runner in the world, your hips, your knees, your back, everything starts to hurt. You need to push, to make a certain time or do something. That's all just mental strain,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's huge, and especially with wrestling, having a good mindset and stuff. So you wrestled. You were 3 times champion in high school, then you wrestled over at Montclair State. I was on the team 1 year when you were there, and then, after that, how did you start getting into MTV and start getting into all the challenges you started doing? How did that process get into that?
Yeah, so right out of college, I graduated in May of 2005. Right out of college, I had already tried out for the show a year prior to that. I was dating a girl. She was super into the show, and we went up to Syracuse, New York. We tried out for the show. One thing led to another, and I became a finalist for one of the Real Worlds. And I never even got on the Real World. They had called me back in June or July after I graduated and asked me to do one of the first challenges. So coming off of wrestling, being an athlete pretty much most of my adult life up to that point, I was like, unless some D1 football player or some rock star wrestler shows up, I think I could handle myself on one of these challenges. Because, I knew what it was. I wasn't naive to the idea. But I knew it was going to be like long runs and shit like that and different stuff where you're suspended over water. And it was a testament for me because I hate heights. I used to hate heights anyway.
Wait, I just want to cut you off 1 second because I want to get into the question what was into that. So when I was reading up on MTV when you used to get on the show, you were on like a ton of shows. You were on Freshman, The Duel, Inferno. You were on the Gauntlet. You were on the Island. You were on the Ruins. And when I'm reading these things off and I'm reading about you, it's almost like reading off like a wrestling guy's his career stats.
Yeah.
You were a 3-time challenge champion. All right.
Yes.
So they considered you one of the better athletes that come on these shows.
For sure.
So my question was, you just start wrestling as a freshman, so you're kind of just starting to build that habit of being able to practice and compete at the highest level and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wrestled briefly, like in college as well, and then you got into this. And like you're saying right now, you knew that you kind of had like you a little bit more than any other athlete that'd be on there. Yeah. Your mentality from wrestling and everything that you learned from wrestling.
Yeah.
You use that same mindset and same physical when you went into all this, and that's probably why you were so successful, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think the hardest race is the one from ear to ear, right? People are always, oh my God, this is going to be hard. You'll psych yourself out 1,001 times. It only takes that one time for you to stay focused and keep going. So yeah, a lot of what I did on that show and the confidence that I had to go in there, like there was a lot of times like we'd have to wrestle over a ring or like fight to get out of something, and I'm like, I knew none of these other guys knew how to wrestle. UFC wasn't a big thing back then. It just started coming up. And UFC at that point, nobody was doing jiu-jitsu. I started doing jiu-jitsu after college with a bunch of buddies like Chris Filato and those guys. Started doing judo and jiu-jitsu and stuff, like Mancuso and those guys. So I started doing that stuff with them by 24, 25. But, I mean, what was that? 12 years ago. So UFC wasn't what it is today. And some of the best guys in UFC at that time were all former wrestlers. Yeah. Like everybody had a wrestling background.
But like when you went on that show and then you met people for the first time, it's not like you walked in and go, I was a wrestler. I mean, no one kind of knew you wrestled, right?
No. But the first show, like everybody's sizing everybody up, especially when you're the new guy. You walk in there and everybody's like, oh, well, he's 6'2", and he's in pretty good shape. He might be a problem. And that's what it is. And then we were allowed to wrestle on the show, like fuck around. You couldn't throw any punches with people and stuff. But I wrestled probably every guy on that show. And even one dude who was supposedly really good, I was like, they all said he wrestled for Wisconsin. I'm like, oh God, this guy's gonna work me, and I end up beating the shit out of him. So like everybody knew that I was like at that time the best wrestler on the show. So if you got me in a wrestling match or like any type of long endurance match at that point, I was gonna win.
So was that guy the toughest guy that you had to wrestle? The whole
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely like there was one dude, this kid Derek, who's on the show. I'm still buddies with now. He was just a scrappy little bastard. He was the type of dude where it's like he didn't really know how to wrestle, and he was okay at it. But he was just like the guy you'd pummel into the ground, and you just keep coming. You know, it was almost like a wild dog. It's like even when you know you had him, he'd still keep fighting. It's like it was unbelievable. So there are definitely, and you see that in wrestling too. You know, there are guys who are crazy strong. You know, I remember wrestling some guys where they grabbed you and you're like, oh shit, this dude is like, even if he doesn't know how to wrestle, he's probably going to be able to manhandle me if I don't, you know, kind of keep my ground here.
So, I mean, like before each of these shows, right? I mean, you knew about these shows way in advance, okay? So, talk about your preparation. Was it almost like getting ready for a big wrestling match?
Yeah. So, for me, it's like they give you a month to 2 months of like leeway to be like, hey, listen, you're going to leave for a show on October 1st. Be ready. So that time leading up to the show, I went back to, and when I moved to New York, I started going to Henzo Gracie's. So I was working out there.
Yep.
I was doing, you know, some Muay Thai just because I enjoyed it. And I was doing a lot of like no-gi jiu-jitsu stuff. I never really got into the gi because I'm like, I want it to be more practical. I'm going to have to wrestle somebody and they're going to be like pulling on my shirt and shit. So I wanted it to be as practical as possible. And that's when I found CrossFit as well. So I started I'm like, all right, what's going to get me in the best physical shape possible? And it was doing a combination of, and I started doing some boxing as well because I was actually trained for an amateur pro fight at the time. We were going to do this big charity event, and I was going to fight this other kid from the show for charity. So there was, towards the end of my you know, career there, I was doing boxing, I was doing jiu-jitsu, I was doing CrossFit, I was doing endurance running. So it was like, it's almost like modern day, it's like CrossFit now, where it's like you have to be prepared for everything, including fighting as well, right? Because CrossFit, there's no like wrestling or, you know, contact. This was like, I have to be prepared for everything. I need to be able to wrestle the biggest guy and get something out of his hand if I need to. I need to be able to run 15, 20 miles with a 10-pound, you know, 20-pound pack on my back. I need to be able to swim. I need to be able to lift. Like everything and anything was included in this. So for me, preparation was just like nonstop. And that's how I got into training as well. It's like at 21, 22 years old, I'm like, I need to be in the best physical shape I can be.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys that were on the show with you for many years, as you know, year after year after year. I mean, some of them had to go home and say, you know what, I got to work on my wrestling, or I got to work on something.
Yeah, you would think. And there were some guys who like got inspired by it. Like I was day one, the first show I showed up with like bands and like different, and like a suspension trainer and stuff, just shit to like stay in shape, because I'm like, I'm going to be there for 6 weeks. There's not going to be a gym. I'm doing all this preparation up to this point, and now I'm just going to fall off. And I'm there for 6 weeks, 8 weeks at a time. So I was like, I'm going to do everything and anything I could. I showed up with a jump rope. So anything I'd been doing up to that point, I'm like, all right, how do I maintain all this? And yeah, there were some guys who were like, oh, well, I'm going to get into wrestling. But I'm like, even if this guy spends the next 6 months, 8 months training for this, I just spent the last 8 years of my life doing it.
Exactly.
You know? So for him to be some like, you know, Vision Quest, you know, he starts wrestling his senior year and going for states, he's not going to win.
Yeah. Someone asked earlier, goes, did you smack up Johnny Bananas behind the scenes?
Johnny Bananas was always my boy. You know, like we got along from day one. I actually had dinner with him right before this whole thing fell apart and the world shut down. We were having dinner and we were talking about how since day one, me and him were buddies. You know, but he's another like scrappy dude. He's definitely strong. I think he's coming towards the end of his career. I mean, he's our age. He's 37, 38 years old. I don't know how many more he's got in him. But that's the there are definitely some other guys I'd love to beat the shit out of from those shows for sure.
I mean, you're a Jersey guy who's a wrestler who has that Jersey swag and stuff like that. had to be people on there that didn't like you from off.
Oh my God, dude! I'll tell you what. You know, no matter what you do, you know, you could save 10 people from a burning building. You know, you could cure cancer. There are always going to be somebody who hates you. They're going to be like, well, you did it for the wrong reasons or whatever. People just won't like you. And that, you know, no matter where you're from, people won't like you because you're from Jersey or you're a wrestler. They don't like the way you look at them. Whatever it is, it's like I never really let any of that shit bother me. I always kind of just did what I did. It's like, and I'm proud of where I came from. I'm proud of what I did. And that's all you have at the end of the day. It's like, you can't change your DNA. And I think there's a lot of times people see what other people do and they're like, I want to be this guy, or I want to be that guy, or I want to be from there. It's like, well, you're not, you know? So you just have to own up to who you are. And from here on out, be the best you can be at that point.
Awesome, man. I mean, you know, so now you live in Manhattan now.
Yeah.
And in quarantine, I've seen videos, pictures. It looks like a dead zone. I mean, it looks like
it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. You would never think. I remember watching the movie The Devil's Advocate, and there's a scene where Keanu Reeves walks out of this building and he looks up Fifth Avenue and there's no one on Fifth Avenue. And I'm like, how impressive is that they had to shut down all these streets to make this scene happen? And now it's like every day I walk out of my apartment and every street's empty. There's no cars. There's no people. So it's very eerie at times. So I'm excited for the world to come back. What the world's going to look like when it does come back, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be odd.
Yeah, it's going to be different. And especially in the wrestling world, it's going to be a little off too.
For sure. I mean, I know parents of wrestling could be fanatical as it is. And the last thing they want to do is have their kid rolling around with somebody. But I think you're going to get to a point where wrestlers and the parents of wrestlers kind of understand, like, hey, this is the sport. You're going to bleed. You're going to get beat up. And, you know, when you're messing around with the same kids all the time, it's, you know, if they don't get it day one, they're fine. You know, let them have at it.
Well, the first people that will come back are wrestling parents, because they're chomping at the bits that they want to be back already, man. So
for sure.
So I'm not worried about that. So I mean, from where you started, you started wrestling as a freshman. You've gone through all your MTV, all the things you've been, all the shows you're on, led to you moving to the city, you being a personal trainer, a CrossFit trainer. Do you still own your own gym, or you don't have your own gym?
So I owned it. I opened my first gym in Paramus back in 2012. Okay. Since then, I had sold it. You know, they had went through a couple different owners and stuff. I moved back into the city. I helped open up the last gym I was at, kind of get that going. Since January, I stepped away from that. Not there anymore. Just had some issues with the owners and management and stuff, and started to look at some other spaces. And then the world fell apart. So, but I think the thing is, it's like, I don't want to be one of the massive Globo gyms. I want to service like a very certain type of clientele, and help them out. But the idea behind running one of these big gyms anymore, for me, the idea is just, I don't know. I think keeping things digital will keep life simple, you know, and you could reach more people, and you could reach the demographic of people. Like my specialty, it's like, I do a lot of, anything, my youngest client is my nephew. I kind of send him workouts and take him through stuff. He's 6, and my oldest client is 76. So I keep in contact with everybody. Like, I want to be able to service them as much as possible and keep them going and watch and make sure they know what they're doing, because there's so much noise in the fitness space right now. There's so many people just doing workouts for the sake of doing them, but if there's no progression and there's no building upon what you've built already, then you're going to stay stagnant. So you need to be able to conform. You need to be able to change. You need to keep your workouts fresh and constantly keeping it evolving. Because just like this, I mean, if you don't evolve your business and go online, then you fall behind and everybody forgets about you. So you got to keep evolving, and your body works the same way our society does.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier with my gym. I had to keep the people busy. I'm doing my virtual classes.
Yeah.
And, they're loving it. They're enjoying it. I know you said you were doing it as well.
Yeah.
You got somebody that wrote under that you inspired them to do CrossFit.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So I know you got really big into the CrossFit. If you can rewind back to yourself in 8th grade and look at yourself now, Would you have pictured would you have pictured yourself doing what you're doing now at 8th grade? Or did your life go a different direction that you planned?
You know what? Like in 8th grade, I really didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. But I remember being in high school and joining a gym. So my family moved up to Cedar Grove when I was like 18, 19 years old. And me and my brother started going to this gym in Cedar Grove. It was just a Globo gym. And we were working out there. And I remember like just hating the management stuff. And I remember telling my brother, I'm like, dude, we should open up a gym. That's what we need to do. And think about it. The world was so different then because CrossFit wasn't a thing. There weren't so many small boutique gyms. There were only like these big global gyms. Like if we didn't go to the gym that was around the block from my house, we'd have to go 15 miles to like the outskirts of Wayne to go to this like LA Fitness that had just opened up. So gyms were more scarce. And I think our parents' generation will be the last generation to not treat fitness like something they shouldn't do, right? Like we always did it. We grew up around that world where it's like, we need to work out. We need to be active. Like I made it my whole life's journey to, be in shape, to inspire people, to get people moving. I got my mom working out. My mom started CrossFit 10 years ago when I started my gym, doing stuff that she never thought she would do, and saved her life since. And she's healthier than she's ever been at 70 than she was at 60. So it's cool for me to see that. And then what it's done for my life and, the hundreds of clients I've had. So I think, and this is what I tell everyone, treat fitness. And I think people are doing it already. Like my nieces and nephews and my clients' kids and stuff they're bonding with their parents over fitness. They're getting into fitness. They see their parents doing squats and push-ups and things like that, and they want to get into it as well. Like it inspires them and it feels good for them to move. So I think our parents' generation will be the last generation that doesn't treat fitness like brushing your teeth. Like I always say, it's like there's 3 things I'm going to do daily. Right? I'm going to make sure I brush my teeth. I'm going to make sure I work out, and I'm going to make sure I, eat something healthy. And those are the 3 things that people should be doing on a daily basis. And keep it clean, keep it simple. And there's no bad time to start. I know there's probably a lot of parents out there listening with their kids and stuff, thinking, oh, well, I'm out of shape, or I'm 40, or I'm 50, and I can't do anything. It's like, no, there's no better time to start than right now. And there's no right or wrong at first. If you get moving, the first 6 months should be the most fun because you're going to get the most results. And then as you get more advanced, as you grow as an athlete, right? Then you're going to have to make the workouts a little bit more complex. You're going to have to figure out what's going to work now because your body starts to adapt to what it's done. Think about it. As a wrestler, you're constantly changing your skill set, and especially if you're wrestling somebody you've wrestled multiple times, you need to change up your game plan a little bit. You can't keep going after them with the same moves.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. That makes plenty of sense that way. The way like that. I want to take a couple questions first.
Yeah.
And then I want to get into the the whole aspect of wrestling and training and nutrition and stuff like that. Someone asked earlier if you're filming now for a challenge. Are you filming?
No. I haven't done anything in, God, it's got to be 7 or 8 years. No, I'm doing a lot of like online workouts, and I work with a bunch of different brands on some fitness stuff. But that's my TV days are with the challenge anywhere behind me. I do a lot of like commercial work and stuff still, and work with a lot of brands on doing like fitness projects.
Nice. One person said you're one of Jersey's heroes, an inspirational message. Keep it up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. When I first got on the show, there was no Jersey Shore. There was no like, Sopranos wasn't even a show. Like all this stuff wasn't around. So I was like the guy from Jersey. So it was pretty cool for a while.
I'm surprised you didn't get on that show. I know you did a Jersey Shore.
Yeah, Jersey Shore. Well, I was hosting their after show on.
Yeah. How did that go?
It was fun. I met them before they were anybody. Season 1, they brought me in. They're like, hey, you're going to interview all these guys. And I didn't know who the fuck they were. They weren't anybody yet. And it was super cool because they were all like, oh, it's nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. We watched the show. And then within the next 6 to 8 months, they had blown up and became these huge stars. So,
yeah. Someone asked, do we need to be part of your team to do your virtual workouts?
No, I'm gonna put up a story tonight of a link, and you could just swipe up and sign in and get in there and do the workout. I recommend to people, because we are going to be in quarantine for another, what, 3 to 6 weeks at least. Grabbing some dumbbells and some bands. You know, I was actually just filming some stuff with a buddy of mine over here. I got a kettlebell, some dumbbells, and some bands. So if you've been in quarantine for 4 to 6 weeks, which most of us have already, you know, bands are a great way and a cheap way to make workouts a little bit more effective now that you've been doing kettlebell swings and all the shit for X amount of time already. So it's a new way to get progressively overload the movements that you've been doing already.
Gotcha. Someone asked about nutrition. I'm going to save that for later. Just
Okay.
About eating and stuff like that. I think I know where this question's coming from. I think it's a little joke. Why don't you tell everybody the story of you buying the wrestling ring from the Dudley Boys?
I bought a wrestling ring after I came off one of my first shows. Me and my brothers went on the scavenger hunt to try to find a wrestling ring, because we used to have a trampoline in our backyard and stuff. And mats weren't so readily available. So we were like, let's buy a wrestling ring. So we bought a wrestling ring off the Dudley Boys down in Philly. They had like an extra ring, and it was like $2,500 at the time. And we were like, yeah, let's get a wrestling ring. So it was set up in my parents' backyard for like 6 years. Yeah.
There's a wrestling question. Say a kid has to cut 7 to 10 pounds in 2 to 3 days for weigh-ins, which isn't that great. What are you telling the kid to eat after weigh-ins?
Oh God, definitely getting some electrolytes back in your body. I mean, you're going to deplete most of that weight is going to be water weight. So definitely rehydrating. I think that's one of the main things that we forget about. I know when I was wrestling and you're starving yourself for 2 to 3 days, the first thing you want to do is just start eating shit. You know, you're eating bagels and stuff, but be a little bit smarter about your nutrition. Definitely getting some carbohydrates, electrolytes, and water back in your system is going to be the most important. And being smart about your diet. I never tell people don't eat those what we consider cheat meals. Right? I remember going to Rutt's Hut after wrestling matches because I'm like, I just want a hot dog. But being smart about it, you know, don't do that all the time. But if you want to reward yourself after winning a big match or something, definitely do that. But right after weigh-ins, getting some water in your body, getting some electrolytes, Gatorade, whatever it is, and some carbohydrates for sure.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that because I was just about to say, so my dad used to always pack me the same thing after weigh-ins all the time. He'd make me pasta like rigatoni, but
Yeah.
if you put any sauce, it'd be like a drizzle just to have a little flavor, but it would be mainly white carbs, and it would be a Pedialyte, a Gatorade, and a water.
Yep.
And a hot tea, because like I don't know if you remember back in the day when you were in line for weigh-ins and you're cutting weight. And
you're freezing. Yeah.
You're like depleted,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And you don't even want nobody to touch you. You're like, dude, don't even touch me, you know? and I remember those days. Like, it was like yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I'd have a nice tea, like decaf, and it would just soothe my body, warm me up. And I'd be ready to go. I mean, the Pedialyte got my electrolytes. I didn't even use Gatorade. If I did Gatorade, I'd be half water, half Gatorade.
Yeah, I think Pedialyte, for me, I prefer Pedialyte over the Gatorade. But it's definitely, I mean, whatever you like, you know, especially at a younger age, you want to kind of be a little bit more lenient with them. But definitely the carbs, Pedialyte, some sort of electrolytes and water is the way to go.
Nice.
Sure. Yeah, not a lot of other crazy shit. Like I know there's a lot of people who are like shoving candy and stuff down their throat. Those sugars are going to spike your insulin levels and stuff, and you don't really need that right after or right before a match, because think about it, after you weigh in, it's probably another half hour to 40 minutes before you actually even get to wrestle, right? Yeah. So I mean, you're going to spike before that,
and then you'll crash.
Yeah, and then you crash.
You're right down. My brother said, who's more of a WWF guru, you or the Caprios?
Oh God, definitely the Caprios. You could ask them the most obscure question about WWE and they'll know it.
It says, my son is 15. He's doing push-ups every day. Should he do it twice a week hard so we can recover the other days? Same thing with his stomach. I'm not sure what that means.
So I actually sent you a list. Dave, if you want to put that up, or I could post it up after this, of different exercises and movements that and cheap ways that to get a little stronger, especially with the younger guys. You know, push-ups are great, but I think a lot of us don't realize how much we focus on the front end, right? I know growing up, our guys our age, always benching, and you start to get shoulder issues after a while. So working the antagonist muscles as much as the protagonist muscles. So if I'm working my chest, I want to definitely do something for my back. So if you're having them do a ton of push-ups, I would definitely work in some inverted rows as well, or some sort of pull-up. And I think younger guys, it's like, yeah, they could probably knock out 2, 5, 10 pull-ups, whatever it is. But, you know, bent over rows or some sort of inverted pull-up, inverted ring row or pull is definitely a great way to supplement that. I think push-ups, doing them every day, you know, as long as you're doing something to work the back end of it is fine. I don't know what type of volume he's doing. If he's doing 400 push-ups a day, it might be a little bit of overkill. But if you're doing, you know, 50, 100 push-ups a day, he should be fine, especially at that young age. But definitely make sure you're working his back just as much as you're working his front.
Yeah, it's not just all focused on one.
Yeah, like a lot of this pushing, you know, you start to use the anterior delt and the pec a little bit too much. And if you're not working your back as much as you're working your front, you're going to start to get that, you know, you're going to start to fold forward a little bit.
Someone asked, how much calories should we intake for weight loss?
So you always, if you want to lose weight, I mean, I think the goal should never be to lose weight. I think you should pick goals as to like skill goals or certain goals in your mind that aren't related to weight. If you're diehard and you're like, I got to lose weight, a calorie deficit is always going to be the best way to go about it. If you're eating and you're the only person who can do this, is figure out what you're eating on a daily basis. Like if I'm having this crazy big breakfast, try to just guesstimate how many calories are in that breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, whatever else you're eating throughout the day. See what that number is, and then eat at a deficit from there. And if you're eating 3,000-4,000 calories a day, knock it down by 50, maybe 60 calories each day, and slowly pull yourself off, right? You don't want to, nobody wants to crash diet. Nobody wants to, you're putting your body through too much to go from, like, if you're used to eating 3,000 calories a day and then you knock it down to 1,500, your body's going to feel that, you know, and our hormones will respond to that. And when you start doing that and you start eating again, you're going to fluctuate right back up. So it's better to be gradual about it and slowly pull yourself down than just jump right into this like low calorie diet. I don't recommend diets for anybody. I think there's different skill ways, and I work with this with my clients, different better ways to get people to lose weight. And it's, you know, there's different steps. You don't want to just jump right into cold water. You want to slowly drop yourself in and regulate your heart rate. And it's the same thing with dieting, where incorporating fitness a little bit more, incorporate when you're eating, how you're eating, what you're eating, and then slowly pull yourself off the bad stuff. You know, for younger guys, I know with kids, it's like you're going to parties and you're eating pizza and candy and soda. You know, I think parents need to be smarter about like what they're giving at these parties. I get it, it's cheap and effective, but there are different alternatives to, you know, pleasing a kid.
Nice. I don't know if maybe I'm hearing a little of an echo. I think when you stand up somewhere, it gets a little bit, or when it's like not moving. I don't know, but
Okay,
I mean, I hear you just a little bit off. Yeah, that was a lot of good. That was very, very good info.
Yeah. Now,
when people decide that they want to go like gluten-free or something like that, I mean, I know a lot of people are gluten-free that don't even have any stomach issues.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think any of these diets, any of this stuff that's come up in the last couple of years, it's like, if there's a goal behind it and then you're going to go back to normal life afterwards, that's fine. If you don't have a gluten allergy, then I don't get why you would. I think we've demonized carbs before. We've demonized fat. We've demonized pretty much everything and anything we could when it comes to dieting. And, you know, we need it all, right? We need carbs. You know, we need fats. We need proteins. How you're eating it, how much, like what the quantity of it is, will determine what you end up looking like and how you feel and everything else. you know, carbs are great, right? Like we said, right after a workout or right after weigh-ins or something, when your body needs that energy, that quick energy. Carbs only stay in your body for, you know, up to 2 hours. And then after that, it's storing it, you know, and that's when people start to get fat. And that's why people demonize it so much. They're like, you don't need all these carbs. If you're some actor or something, you're going to a role and you need to be shredded for this 3-week period that you're filming this movie for, fine, that's one thing. But if you are just an everyday Joe and there's no real goal and you just want to look good for the summer, it's like start to deplete the amount of carbohydrates you're eating or when you're eating them, but don't cut them out completely. You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of these gluten-free like meals or whatever people are buying at stores, you know, they're pumping all this other shit into it to make it taste good.
Yeah.
So be weary of that as well.
There's some people that are saying that it can't hear you too well on your phone.
Oh. How's this?
Maybe a different part of your house. I don't know.
I'll move around a little bit. Is that better?
Yeah. I mean, guys, if you can't hear him, just let me know.
Yeah.
We'll keep going. So I don't see any questions, any more questions right now. But so why don't we get into just like the nutrition of like what a balanced diet is throughout a day. If you're an athlete who's going to be constantly in the move, constantly burning calories, and you want to just maintain a good diet, what would be like a sample, like what you should be eating during the day?
Yeah, my rule of thumb, I like intermittent fasting, and I know a lot of other people agree with that. You know, for guys anyway, definitely intermittent fasting is kind of my go-to, but for other people, it might not work as well. And for younger kids, I don't recommend it. But on a daily basis, you know, having a balanced meal, like I think the idea of doing all the crazy shit that people want to do these days, like, oh, I want to go gluten-free or I want to go keto and stuff. I'm not a big fan of these crash diets. I rather you just eat a balanced meal. So whatever your weight is, it's like especially if you're working out and stuff, like about 1 gram to 2 grams worth of protein in every meal. You know, definitely getting your carbs in there and your fats and stuff. And to a lot of younger guys, this is all nonsense. So it's like, pay attention to what you're actually eating. You know, it's like there's candy, there's sugars, there's cakes, there's all this stuff out there. Soda is I couldn't even tell you the last time I drank soda. And it's one of those things where it's basically you're putting empty calories into your body and your body doesn't know what to do with it. So it stores it in all types of weird places. So being conscious, if you can't kill it and you can't grow it, you probably shouldn't eat it. You know, I love fish. I love, you know, any types of meat and, you know, vegetables. And if you're going to do carbs and grains and, different types of protein in that way, that's the way to go. You know, just being conscious of what it is. And then if you're eating an abundance of it, you know, think of it, be more conscious when you eat. When you're eating, I think a lot of us just start to shovel food down our throats. Sometimes because we're dehydrated, so make sure you're drinking a ton of water. But also, you know, we're quick to eat or we're eating on the run. Just take slower bites. Take your time when you're eating. You know, it's more about guidelines than it is about a diet. Give yourself guidelines. It's like, all right, I'm not going to eat anything with sugar in it until the weekend, you know? And for the adults out there, it's like having, you know, and you could, this is a great goal a great skill thing that I have all my clients do, especially older people who are like, I don't drink that much, but only allow yourself 12 drinks a week, right? So if you're only allowing yourself 12 drinks a week and you're not hitting that 12 drink mark, right, then knock that down to 8, right?
What kind of drinks are we talking about here?
Cocktails.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like limiting your amount of it, you know, we know young kids are out there and they're partying and everything else. Like limit the amount of stuff you take because again, that's empty calories, you know? So limiting the amount of empty shit you're putting in your body and putting good stuff, proteins, good carbs, fats. You need the fats. Like I'm a huge fan of like in the morning when I have my coffee, I put collagen protein, MCT oil in my coffee and I'm good. Now my brain functions better. I feel better in the morning and then I won't eat till like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's like an intermittent fasting goal. But again, for younger guys, I would say just stick to clean eating, giving them something healthy. I know growing up on an Italian diet, there was always cheese on top of everything, sauce on top of everything. Limiting the amount of that shit that you put on your food will help you out as well.
Nice. So now that I got my kids that are in quarantine, and they're home. I got, and obviously the rest of the world in quarantine. What are just some little workouts they should be doing at home?
Yeah, that's definitely something I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I mean, we don't know if this is going to be the last time we have to do this whole quarantine thing. So investing in some cheap equipment that could really work, especially guys who live in New Jersey, you got a backyard. Battle rope is a great little tool that they could have. A kettlebell, for the younger guys, a 32-pound kettlebell or a 50-pound kettlebell would be a great little tool for them to have around the house. If you got a big backyard, get in a sled. And sandbags. For wrestlers, sandbags will be, second to none. A sandbag that's half your body weight or close to your body weight could be something that you really play around with. You could squat it, you could throw it over your shoulder, you could sit up with it, you could do a ton with that. And it's going to mimic what you're going to be doing on the mat as much as possible. So there's general training, there's general, physical preparedness, doing the push-ups, doing the rows and the squats and all that stuff. And then there's sport-specific training. For your guys, they're going to want to move around a bag, get up off their back. They're going to have to do a lot of that stuff that is unconventional to a lot of other sports, and that's what they want to mess around with. Definitely staying consistent. I think a lot of people are always looking for this magic workout, but I think the consistency over time is going to be more effective than any one workout. If you're doing something every day, then that's more effective than you doing, one killer workout on Saturday and then you don't do shit till the next Saturday. Yeah. No good. Sticking with push-ups, squats, sit-ups, lunges. I think people forget about how important lunges are. We never do anything bilaterally, right? We squat bilaterally, but think about your wrestling stance. It's a staggered stance, and I want to be able to push up off that front leg or that back leg when I need to be able to do it. So working on lunging and working on, weighted lunges is going to be real effective for wrestlers.
That was a lot of good info. One of my biggest things, and you can ask any of my wrestlers, what I have them do all the time, and I wanted you to tell me what your thoughts on it. Jumping rope every day. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it gets your heart rate up. I think it's a great way to improve your cardiovascular work. Kind of your hand-eye coordination.
Non-wrestlers, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of my clients warm up with 2, 4, 6 minutes worth of jumping rope. Especially if you're in your house and you don't have a rower, you don't have access to, you don't want to go outside. It mimics running because it is kind of percussion. You're moving up and down. You're simulating that movement. So I think it's a great way to stay in one place and get the same cardiovascular effect that you would if you were running. And then you're working your shoulders as well. So I think it's definitely effective for boxers, wrestlers, and then everyday general population.
I've seen fitness people who can't jump rope. All right. They can't last more than 6 minutes jumping rope.
Yeah.
And they can't do 10 pull-ups.
Yeah. I don't know how much. Listen, my qualifications for what a fitness professional should be is different than what the world's view is. I mean, people get so offended by it, but you got to look the part. You got to be the part. You got to be able to do all the things. I never program anything for my clients that I can't do myself. I don't want them doing anything that I don't do myself. And if I haven't done it myself, I couldn't tell you how to wrestle unless I wrestled myself. I don't know what it feels like to be out there on the mat, get my ass kicked and going for that extra shot and doing that extra thing if I never felt it myself. So I think when people program X, Y, and Z and you don't know what it feels like and you're telling somebody to do 10 rounds of that, well, you don't know what it feels like. So what do you know? You don't know what somebody's going through. So I think you need to be able to do the things that you're telling people to do before you tell them to do it.
Yeah, I mean, especially with these virtual classes, me and my fiance, we are, she's over here, Mr. Gory. We have usually assistant coaches that kind of help us out with the warm ups and stuff like that. But we've been doing everything now. every burpee, every jumping jack, every hip heist drill is Misty here. Kenny.
Hello, how are you?
So we've been doing our own workouts, and then afterwards we jump right into the Zoom classes, and for an hour and 45 minutes. So like, going back on, you should be able to do the things that you're telling your client to do, right? Like,
For sure.
You can't just be like I remember in high school, there was this guy like 300 pounds, he's a track coach, and I never saw him even like do a run.
Yeah.
I never understood it,
Yeah, I'm in the midst of writing a running program based off the running that I've done. I can't tell you how to run a marathon if I've never ran a marathon before. So I try to teach people how to do things after I've done them myself, after I've tested it and retested it. Because if you've never done it, then you don't know how it feels. So you being a wrestling coach, like that's why I'm like, I'm going to send my nephew to Dave, because I know Dave's done it all, and you've been doing it. And as far back as I can remember, I mean, you did it yourself, and then you've been teaching younger guys for years. So who better to teach them than the guy who's got the most practical knowledge? You could come out of college and have all this knowledge on kinesiology and strength and conditioning, but if you've never worked one-on-one with somebody, if you've never seen the issues or done it yourself, then how well do you know that knowledge? Because you never even put it into practice.
Yeah. Have like a quote that you go by, that like an everyday quote that kind of gets you motivated.
Yeah, just
you tell your clients.
Yeah, I tell everybody, it's like, just shut the fuck up and go do it. It's. I always say, yeah. There's so many people are like, I can't do this, I can't do that. It's like, you can do anything you want. I never thought when I first started wrestling, my dad was the first person to tell me, he's like, you're not even going to be any good. You never did it before, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I was very happy with my wrestling career. I won a district title. I was excited about that. And then I went on and did it in college. And when I got on TV, people are like, well, you're not going to be any good. And it's like, I won 3 times with that. And then people told me, well, you can't open a business. And I opened up 2 of those. It's like, so anything I've ever done, I put my mind to it. I've treated it like the same way I treat sports. It's like, I just get up and I start doing it. There's so many people who are like, well, I don't have the time to work out every day. Again, make the time. Everybody has 5-10 minutes in their day. I have clients who I'm like, they're like, well, when do I stretch? I go, get up off your ass at your desk and do these 3 stretches, because it's better than doing absolutely nothing. You could think about it, talk about it, but until you do it, then there's no point in, saying you can't.
And it's funny because my saying with my kids, I have 2 sayings with my kids. So one of them is champions are made when nobody's watching.
Yeah.
And I tell them, the little guys, when they first didn't understand it, and I told them, champions are made when nobody's watching means that, like, nobody has to tell you to go for a run.
Yep.
Nobody has to tell you to go do jump rope for 10 minutes. Nobody has to tell you to go do some pull-ups, all right? If you can train with the mindset of being by yourself and not having someone down your back, mom, dad, brother, sister, coach, anybody telling you to go do it, I mean, that's what championships are won when you're by yourself and you're doing it, and put a headphones on and just go to work,
Yeah.
And
that's super important.
My last one is, and if you see a lot of my shirts, I think Missy might have one on right now. Our shirt says 1% on them. Okay, yeah. Look, I'll show you right here. See how it says 1%.
Yep.
So I got a lot of shit for this when I first got this shirt, because a lot of people were like, "Are you telling your kid to go 1% every day?" Right? And I go, listen to me. If you're part of the wrestling club, you'll know what the hell 1% means.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So everybody that's at my club knows what 1% means. And what 1% means is that I'm not saying that I'm asking for 1% of their effort every day, because I want 110% of their effort every day in practice. What I'm trying to say to them is that you don't need to be 100% better every day. Okay, you got to be 1% better every day than you were from the day before and the day before. Okay, and as you accumulate your 1%, you're progressively going to go forward, and you're never going to go backwards. Okay, so my little kids will go 1, 2, 3, 1%, and they know what the hell that means. They know that they got 1% better that day. So those are my 2 phrases that I use.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's super important, because a lot of people don't realize that doing a little bit every day will compound, and you'll be so much better when you look back 100 days from now or 50 days from now. So yeah, I think just getting up there, you know, at the end of every class I ever teach, I always have everybody put their hands in and say no bullshit, you know, because the only person holding you back is you. You're the one coming up with your bullshit excuses. You're the one who's bullshitting yourself saying you can't do it. Like, you're your worst enemy 99% of the time. And if you just stop giving yourself excuses and stop beating yourself up over things and just go out and do things, then you're going to be so much better. You know, there's times where in my professional career, in my personal life, you know, I'm always like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And I just get up off the couch. I go do it. I get it done. I'm just so much more successful. You know, people ask me, how'd you get this? How'd you get that? It's like, I put myself out there to go do it. So do as much as you can. Life's too short to just sit around and hope something's going to come to you. You got to go after it.
Exactly, man, 100%. And we had Yanni Diakomahalis over here on one of my interviews the other day, world champion, two-time NCAA champ from Cornell. I know I'm talking fast because we only got 5 minutes left. Two-time NCAA champ, world champion. And he said to my guys, he goes, don't be in quarantine, okay? Don't make quarantine give you a reason to get lazy.
Yeah, for sure.
And he says, and then I had Donnie DeFilippis on the other day, and he says, I bet you, whoever's listening to this chat or to this interview, you have developed a bad habit during this quarantine, okay? Mm-hmm. Think about what bad habit, you know, a lot of people are drinking more, okay? I see it every day, people drinking every day. People, the sleep is off. I get it's a weird time, but let's try not to fall into bad habits that when this is all said and done, it doesn't move on to when we're done.
Yeah, I think if anybody walks away from anything from this interview, I'd love for them to realize that you could walk out of quarantine better than you were before it. You have more time to do all the things that you said you want to do, or, you know, things you want to learn. Like, I already have 2 more certifications. I'm going for 2 more in the time that we're in quarantine, because I want to have more knowledge, and I want to be better after quarantine than I was before that. And what you said before about doing, you know, being better when nobody's watching. The only reason I got to where I was because I did all this shit, not because someone told me to, because I wanted to do it myself. So that will drive you further in your wrestling career, in your personal career, in your life, because if you do those things naturally that no one tells you to do, then that's probably what you want to do for the rest of your life. And if you do those things really well, then people will start to notice that, and you'll go way further than anybody else. You know, getting those extra push-ups in when your parents don't tell you to do it, getting that extra run in, doing those little things that you know everybody else isn't doing will make you so much better than everybody else.
Nice. Oh, I got a nice shirt for you. Okay?
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, I got a nice shirt for you, and it has the 1% on there. So, but
cool.
I want just you to have it. I don't want your clients to have it. You want to know why? Because I want all your clients to ask you what that 1% meant. And now that you know what that 1% means, I want you to motivate your clients with that, man. So,
cool. I appreciate that.
You know, so we got about less than 2 minutes. It's going to give me a countdown. Yeah, there it is. The countdown started. Is there anything you can leave us with? Where can we find info about you? Where can we get workouts, stuff like that?
Yeah. So my Instagram at Kenny Santucci, and then my website, kenny-santucci.com. Check that out. I'm going to be putting up a whole bunch of stuff on. I'm working on this whole running program. So there's 2 types of runners in the world. There are runners who hate it and they never want to do it and they don't find joy in it. And then there are runners who do it too much and end up getting hurt from it. So I'm going to have different programs for different people, and you guys could check that out. It's going to be super fun, and it's good for everybody. It's good for general public. It's good for wrestlers, anybody. So
nice. And we would like to, if any of my kids are on here, I'd love to get you on one of my Zoom practices.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of them doing a wrestling workout, they'll do a weight training workout with you.
I would love that. I would love that.
You could do it right from your apartment. You look like you have a nice apartment. I see you back there. It looks good.
Yeah, thank you.
Kenny, man, listen, man. I mean, we go way back. We go a long time. Again, I love the direction that your life is going. You're an entrepreneur. You're doing what you love, which is most important. You're working out every day. You're getting people. You're saving people's lives, and you're doing all the right things. And I admire that about you. And keep doing your thing. I'm going to keep following you. And once it's all said and done, we'll get together and we'll bounce ideas off each other, get a nice something to eat, and have a drink, and go from there, man. But thank you for coming out.
Let's do it. No, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Keep in touch.
Awesome, guys. Thank you, guys. I'm going to
Thank you,
put this
guys.
interview up on my YouTube tomorrow. So if you guys want to check it out. So if you miss anything that Kenny talked about as far as nutrition and working out, you can go back and watch it. It'll be on my YouTube, Dave Cordova. Go, guys. Go check it out. See you later, man. Be
Thank you,
safe.
brother. You
Tell
too.
your family be safe, and we'll miss you
Stay
guys,
safe.
man. All right, brother.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right, bye.
All right.